So Commissioner Muchanga, I want to welcome you and ask you to share with us your thoughts. What is the process that we're talking about? Where are we in terms of rolling out the negotiations? If we're talking about operationalization, what does that mean in terms of timeframes and what can the private sector expect going forward? Thank you.
Thank you very much, moderator and director. It's good to see you again. And greetings. It's afternoon from Addis Ababa, and it's morning in Canada. Certainly, I'm very, very happy to be here. And I'm going to inherit the salutations that have been made so that I do not repeat myself. And I would like to begin by thanking His Excellency, Mr. Yusuf Mahamadou, the President of the Republic of Niger and leader of the African Continental Free Trade Area, for the guidance that he has given to us during his opening address. His visionary leadership of the African Continental Free Trade Area has transformed Africa into a continent of hope and opportunity. And that is going to portend very well for the prosperity of the continent. In the same vein, I congratulate the Africa AeTrade Group and the Canadian Council on Africa for organizing this important webinar. This particular panel discussion is very timely and pertinent. I say so because harnessing political commitment to implement the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area in the post-COVID-19 era addresses what needs to be done for Africa to create a future. And this should be a future of progress, even during the post-COVID-19 era. It also means we are not afraid to face the future. And courage is one of the hallmarks of leadership. Furthermore, it means we are ready to face the emerging crisis. How leaders behave during a crisis defines their competencies as leaders. For a visionary leader, every crisis has opportunities within it. And those opportunities are harnessed to make society adjust to a better future. And it is in this spirit that I thank the Africa AeTrade Group and the Canadian Council on Africa for choosing this topic. Before addressing the topic in detail, let me briefly state where we are in this era of the COVID-19 pandemic. The basic fact before us that life as we knew it has changed, and this is possibly forever. Working from home and virtual meetings now dominate official engagements. Infections, disruption, recovery, and resilience are now in common usage when we are talking to each other. Let me say that infections are everyday occurrences and they are rising vis-a-vis the COVID-19 pandemic. Africa, like the rest of the world, has not been spared by the COVID-19 pandemic. According to data from the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, released on the 2nd of October this year, the 55 African Union member states have reported cases of 1,488,488 of COVID infections, out of which there has been 36,372 people dying and 1,230,644 recoveries. Africa has also its share of disruptions. Government restrictions and shutdowns implemented on the continent to curb the disease have disrupted critical global, regional, and domestic value and supply chains. Consequently, domestic and international trade flows have been disrupted, and sometimes very severely. The impact on livelihoods and business have been adverse, with many company closures. In the face of company closures, unemployment has surged, and with it, increased poverty levels. At the macroeconomic level, Africa will this year undergo a recession, the first time in 25 years. This comes against the background of a huge debt burden, an external debt burden that brings challenges in making payments and repayments on time and in full. And this is where the African Continental Free Trade Area comes in. It is a strategic platform for recovery, growth, sustainable development, and building resilience in the post-COVID-19 era. You heard it from the leader of the African Continental Free Trade Area, the President of Niger, His Excellency, Mr. Yusuf Mahamadou. From his message, it came out very clearly that African leaders are fully committed to make the African Continental Free Trade Area work in the post-COVID-19 era and deliver tangible benefits to all Africans. It is this respect that we are going to have an extraordinary session of the Assembly of the African Union Heads of State and Government on 5th December this year, where we are expected to submit to our leaders a comprehensive report stating the work on rules origin, schedules of concessions on tariff on trade in goods, and schedules of specific commitments in trade in services that it has been completed. This completed work will be handed over to the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area at the extraordinary summit so that he can use it as he implements the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area effective 1st of January 2021. During the same occasion, the African Union will hand over to the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area the online mechanism on monitoring, reporting, and elimination of non-tariff barriers. This instrument is fully operational and can be found at www.tradebarriers.africa. From this, it is clear that the momentum to finalize outstanding work is very dynamic. And this is a reflection of strong political commitment. With this spirit, 7 meetings of the negotiation forum of the African Continental Free Trade Area, senior trade officials, and the African Union Ministers of Trade will be held at intervals from next Monday, 12th of October, to 30th November this year. While the African Union member states make policies, rules, and regulations, the players in the African Continental Free Trade Area market will be the private sector. In this connection, African ministers, senior trade officials, and the African Union Commission the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area and regional economic communities, together with our strategic partners, will meet the private sector representatives on 30th of November this year. The conversation at that meeting will be two-way. On our part, we shall demonstrate to the private sector our full readiness for the start of trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area on 1st of January 2021. On their part, we expect the private sector to tell us their readiness to scale up trade and investments in the African Continental Free Trade Area earlier or starting on 1st of January 2021. In addition to this, we shall have the second edition of the African Continental Free Trade Area Business Forum just before the extraordinary summit to facilitate business to government networking and business to business networking and transacting. There are also national and regional level preparations for the start of trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area. At the national level, all African Union member states are working on producing trade documents based on a template with appropriate security features. And this template is provided for in the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area. These trade documents will be distributed at all the trading points in each national territory. There will also be a meeting of Directors General of Customs to familiarize themselves with the trading documents. Member states are also sensitizing their respective business private sectors on the trade and investment opportunities offered by the African Continental Free Trade Area. At the regional level, we, together with the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area, are sensitizing the regional economic communities as building blocks to continental economic integration to start featuring the logo of the African Continental Free Trade Area in their trade documents. These will rapidly facilitate inter-regional trade. This will be good because a huge segment of intra-African trade is currently composed of intra-regional trade. Trading across regions will lead us a step further in our vision of creating an integrated African market, which is the main focus of this webinar. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are. There is strong political commitment. And to capstone all this, we together with the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area will pair up countries in such a way that the rollout of trade under the Continental Free Trade Area will take place across the length and width of Africa on 1st of January 2021. There are numerous opportunities that will emerge when the African Continental Free Trade Area is rolled out on 1st January 2021. I'll briefly outline a few of these opportunities. First, the market offers huge opportunities with high rates of return for African pension funds and sovereign wealth funds when they increase their investments across Africa. When foreign capital left Africa at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, most of it went into gold holdings, and it is not expected to massively return to Africa immediately there's a vaccine to treat COVID-19 infections. In this light, we look up to the African private sector, pension funds, and sovereign wealth funds to fill the vacuum. Once they do that, foreign capital will return to Africa because Africa offers one of the most promising markets around the world in the next 20 years or more on account of a young population and a growing middle class. Building on this, I encourage Canadian investors and the African diaspora in Canada to take advantage of an integrated market, which would be the largest free trade area since the formation of the World Trade Organization in 1995. And this is a market of 1.27 billion consumers, expected to be 1.7 billion consumers by 2030. The second opportunity is that the African Continental Free Trade Area offers a huge opportunity to actualize inclusive industrialization, and with it, productive transformation, export diversification, improvement of quality infrastructure, as well as adoption of the Made in Africa standard, among others. This will be anchored on the development of regional value chains. And since our focus is on inclusive industrialization, we are collaborating with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization on a regional value chain mapping exercise. Once this is completed, and our target is that it should be done by November this year, we'll be able to know what each and every African country can manufacture at either intermediate or final product levels and export to the rest of Africa. With this inclusiveness, there will be enhanced buy-in by ordinary Africans for the African Continental Free Trade Area. As part of the process of demonstrating political commitment towards the African Continental Free Trade Area, this year's Assembly of the African Union Heads of State and Government gave us a mandate to facilitate negotiation of a protocol on e-commerce and digital trade. E-commerce has been growing rapidly since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic and is expected to grow faster once there is a regulatory framework. The AeTrade Group is already active in this area. At one level, the group has an operating e-commerce platform called Sokuku, or Common Market, which was launched this year during Africa Integration Day. I'm very confident that the platform will enable millions of African micro, small, and medium enterprises to trade among themselves and the rest of the world. At the other level, the AfCFTA Group and other strategic partners are collaborating with us in organizing the African Union Youth Startup Competition. This competition aims at sponsoring 150 African talented and innovative startups to attend the second Intra-African Trade Fair scheduled to take place in September 2021. And it will also use that opportunity to facilitate their networking with joint venture capital firms in order to enable them have financing available to grow their businesses. In this respect, the competition will play an important role in unleashing the innovative spirit and talent of young Africans. As I conclude, let me say that Canada should be proud for providing fertile ground for the incubation of the AfCFTA Group, which is now being rolled out the continent, as evidenced by the fact that the chief operating officer is based in Africa, in addition to there being regional offices across Africa. And as we are told by the chairperson, there's going to be a continental headquarters. Let me also acknowledge the support from the Canadian government for the African Continental Free Trade Area through funds provided to the African Trade Policy Center, or ATPC. What is also noteworthy in this support is the strong focus on mainstreaming gender in the African Continental Free Trade Area. Through this support, the ATPC has been able to provide the much needed advisory services to the African Union Commission and member states. And this support is aimed at advancing the negotiations and building momentum to deliver an integrated market in Africa on 1st of January 2021. I'll stop here and thank you very much for your kind attention.